the dark chambers of the Perun's Aerie, a group of 50 hackers were hard at work on their computer terminals. Each hacker was piped into one of the fastest mainframe supercomputer systems in the world, maximizing their productivity with dual 32-inch computer screens. The supercomputer had been built in secret over the past 12 months, and had only just come online 2 weeks ago in preparation for Operation Red Worm. 30 of these hackers were spending close to 18 hours a day creating and then promoting thousands upon thousands of fake news articles across Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Facebook, in what was perhaps the first 21st century information warfare campaign against Poland's allied forces. As Nestor Petiev, one of the chief hacking supervisors, walked into the room, he felt a sense of pride when he saw the headlines splashed across the screens all around him. Russia invades Norway and Poland sure made for good news. That one had received a lot of clicks. Fascist Romanian forces bomb Ukraine had not been quite as successful, but was still making headway. There were 2 stories that were taking on a life of their own. We shall incorporate some of the real reporting into the next set of articles. The group was also busy posting propaganda videos. They had pieced footage together from clips given to them from helmet cameras from Spetsnaz raids, frontline soldiers, fighter combat cameras, anything that showed the Russian military winning a battle or airstrike against the Intermarium or the Syrians. Those videos were gaining a lot of traction around the world, so they began to run a lot of info pieces on the victims. The entire goal with pushing this narrative was to show the Polish and their allies as the aggressors and the Russians as the victims. While the media arm continued to propagate their material, a separate group of hackers was breaking into the Polish, Baltic, Hungarian, Moldovan, and Romanian transportation systems. They were interfering with train schedules, communications, and traffic signals, anything that would cause chaos and confusion in the Allied nations. When combined, these attacks were causing the electronic infrastructure of the Allies to grind to a halt. Several of the more gifted hackers in this division were given the particularly hard task of co-opting the company's industrial control systems. In one case, they had successfully taken control of a train engine on an extremely vital Irish rail line, causing the engine to burn out while it was in transit. Then they disabled the switching station, so that the engineers in the control rooms couldn't remotely divert trains around the affected track. This had caused a series of delays. In Australia, the hackers had taken control of the Liddell power station in New South Wales and forced the generator to spin out of control until it blew up and destroyed the plant. 10 workers had been killed, 9 others injured. The loss of megawatts of power was a huge hit to the city of Sydney and to the state as a whole. The hackers had also hit 4 other power generators, which had caused a series of rolling blackouts across much of the east coast and parts of Canberra. Power companies were scrambling to get old turbines turned on to pick up the slack and restore power. But not before we managed to get into their systems. Tyrannus cannot run far for now. While the hackers were sowing chaos on the internet against their targets, a disinformation campaign was having the desired effect amongst the population. Public opinion against the war was soaring in Europe. To make matters worse for the United States, 2 Spetsnaz teams carried out a devastating attack against 2 liquid natural gas terminals in Maryland and Louisiana. The Spetsnaz members shot their way through the perimeter security of both facilities and then blew up the terminals using C4 explosives they detonated remotely. Following the attack, the 2 attack teams blended right back into the population and disappeared, at least until the FBI could hunt them down. The destruction of these 2 terminals cut the US's ability to export natural gas to Western Europe by 68%. This was a huge loss, considering Europe had been cut off from importing additional liquid natural gas from Russia once the hostilities had officially begun. the continent would now be thrown into a widespread gas shortage. It's been a while since my more recent days of war. I finally felt free, liberated from darkness and war. I have been a soldier for 3 armies, from flying for the Stroke Confederation over Papua New Guinea to a slave life by the space pirates. Then a new life in ISAF. Oh, and a few days being captive by Project 9. Now I do office work and occasional, calm, practical stuff here at Sky Masters. Well, it is calm by my standards, at least. For some reason, the base commander, General John Copper, has summoned me to here, Mareeba, the town far up in the Atherton Range. Here I feel as though I can touch the sky at ground level, as if in another plane of existence. It was also where we went to witness the destruction of Archangel Space Station as it disappeared into Earth's atmosphere. Thanks to the flight schedules, I've been left waiting in the icy blast of wind that comes around this time of year. There were days when many strange and wondrous planes of war were kept here in museums, while we developed more strange designs for the invasion conflicts in Queensland and PNG. It was even directly below where spacecrafts would fly out into orbit. But now, those days are gone, and they feel so far away. Now the hangars are left bare, and history continues on. All that remains is stillness and echoes. This detachment of Soren Industrial Airport gradually was used to store some of the many experimental planes designed and built by Sky Masters since it went into business. Most were the brainchild of Jonathan Masters, the company's founder and chief scientist. His tragic death months before at the hands of domestic terrorists had left a hole in Sky Masters' reputation for high-tech innovation and invention that my boss, retired ISAF Army Colonel Joe Torres, and I were trying hard to fill. But damn, boss, you left some mighty big shoes behind. John Masters had been brilliant, maddening, quirky, childish, and a hell of a lot of fun to work with. From day to day, I never knew if he was going to come into the lab brimming with a new concept for a single-stage-to-orbit spaceplane, or with rough specs for a radar system so sensitive it could pick up the flutter of a bat's wings at 50 nautical miles, or an attack drone based off a World War II plane. Joe Torres, now the chief executive officer, was incredibly talented and quirky as hell in his own way, but he would never be another John Masters. You only ran across a guy like that once in a generation or two, and only then if you were lucky. Same goes for a town like this. General, I'm here. General Cover? General? Captain Horacio. Pleasure to see you again. Commander Langham. Is there any security clearance you can't get past? Apologies for the small deception, but speaking on open channels would cause quite a bit of a stir. Being on a multinational hit list must be cramping your normal travel schedule a bit, eh? Hey, hello, Ibis. Mr. Byrne, you've returned at last. You're looking quite well for a stateless pirate or bloodthirsty mercenary, or whatever the Russians and news columnists are calling you nowadays. Why, thank you. Still, the Winterhawk Squadron is a nice outfit, and Poland is definitely one of the countries worth fighting for. Well, yes, it definitely sounds so. Hey, ma'am. I believe I've seen you before. Northern India, right?
Correct. I recall meeting you there. It was quite a situation. Intense, but very victorious as I recall.
Well, honestly, I'd rather not really remember it. After all, I nearly got bombed while on the ground thanks to the Pakistanis. But you guys managed to find out who the real bad guys were. But you did all the heavy work, not me. Now I'm back where I'm supposed to be. Yes, you always have a knack for surviving every life you're in, Ibis. But unfortunately the base did not, so we've had to seek elsewhere. Well, anyway, I'll ensure that you get what you need here. And also don't run into trouble, otherwise Wedgetail will kick my ass, won't he?
Oh no, I'll take care of that.
Now that we've decided who's kicking whose arse, can we move on to some more serious topics, please? Such as the reason you're poking your nose to a hangar full of old X-planes? On the nose, Dr. Horacio. We're here to check out one of Dr. Masters' old orphans. One of his many advanced aviation projects that never saw the light of day. Orphans, huh? Well, I shall be your tour guide then. This way, please, my dear guests. My dear guests, this is Hangar 7, otherwise known as the Mausoleum of Expensive Dreams. In here are some of John Masters' creations that never managed to see production, some not even testing, all fallen victim to design flaws, government or contract budget cuts, political maneuvering, or cutthroat competition with larger, more established defense contractors. That's crazy. I see it as a piece of unrealized potential and a well of innovation waiting to be tapped. These designs are revolutionary. Definitely not a waste of resources. At least that's how I feel. You're not alone, my friend. You are not alone. What is the craft that you seek? You're sure now, Lieutenant. That one there. Oh, I see. The one that really catches your eye. That, my dear, is the Sky Master's XCV-62 Ranger, the next generation of transport craft that never was. Its primary features involve stealth, long range, and short takeoff and landing. During the invasion, a call was put forth for such a stealthy S-Tol tactical bomber. Sky Masters jumped straight to building a full prototype. The Master's untimely death and government mix-ups had strangled their bidnet's cradle. The doc managed to get one single airworthy prototype out. Now it sits here as a silent memory of peace. Until now, I presume. Exactly right. But hang on a second. Don't you still have at least one of the XC-57 transports from your time in northern India? That big mother's got quite the range. Indeed. It's still too big for such a low-level mission like this, even if it did have that hypersonic weaponry that John promised. What about your Sparrowhawks? They're damn good birds that can land practically anywhere. True, but they do not have enough speed or range, nor will the Polish SW-4 chopper we're modifying for stealth. Nothing at all. We need to insert troops deep into the heart of hostile territory and pick them up again on an improvised runway and escape undetected.
The Ranger fits the bill perfectly.
But there's no way the lady in charge of all this will let you fly away with it. We poured more than $100 million into that Ranger. Actually, the shrewd businesswoman has. She knows the difference between $100 million in sunk costs and $13 million in cash. Well, I'll be damned. But the biggest roadblock is the state police and AFP here on behalf of that moronic state government. Apparently somebody new's in charge now. Don't they ever get tired of putting makeup on two faces every morning? But anyway, they're crawling all over the place. It took a lot of effort to get your current equipment out. Even if you strip the Ranger down to the bone, there's no way you can get it from Queensland all the way to Europe. Why, sure there is. How? We'll fly it out. What do you think we were going to do? What? No matter how much of a shit-hot pilot you are, you can't fly a plane you've just seen and handle it safely. This isn't Independence Day. That is what the flight sims are for.
With one of them reconfigured to Ranger specs, We'll squeeze in a few hours of training.
While the airline pilots are sleeping. Even if you can figure out how to fly that beast, there's still no way you can make it out.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Very funny, Perun. Stealth doesn't make you invisible to the naked eye. You won't even make it past the taxiways. Nah, we won't. Before you developed the Ranger, you made a few mock-ups, right? Standard engineering practice? Yeah. Still got 'em? Sure. Crated up deep in the bowels of long-term storage. Why? Patience, Dr. Horacio. All will be made clear soon enough.
The engines, they're standard commercial types, right?
Yeah. Off-the-shelf Rolls-Royce Tay 62015 turbofans. No point inventing the wheel if you don't have to, as the doc would say. So if you had to, you could get some spares, right? Show a little mercy to an aging wreck, okay? I still may be in my late 20s, but all this warfare's aged me by 100 years. My brain's going soft. Oh, I was wondering what will break first, your spirit or your body. But fair enough, old-timer. Here's how I see things playing out. Oh boy. Well, don't be afraid to give up the good to go for the great. And besides, what better way to start the day than risking a possibly life in federal prison? Just for you.
Rider 30, Mareeba ATC, winds 240 at gusting to 18, runway 18, cleared for takeoff. Cleared for takeoff, runway 18, Rider 30.
Horatio? Agent Talberg? Who was that just left? A Herc we call the mailman around here. Delivering supplies to the defenses here and transferring locally made cargo to the front lines of the Pacific. What sort of cargo? Food, sundries, bed linen, anything to contribute. Now, we shall see him again in probably a month. I thought military aircraft weren't permitted to land on civilian airstrips. During the invasion, the government passed legislation for Mareeba to become a joint military-civilian airstrip like the ones out west. After this war, it'll be back to normal. Anyway, lovely day for flying, isn't it? Sure. So what are we doing here? We're giving one of our aircraft here a test flight, making sure that it's in good working condition in the event it might be needed in the Pacific War. Has this been approved? Of course it is. I saw to it myself. I thought Sky Masters wasn't a bestseller anymore. That's what our adversaries want us to believe. I'm still not over what that greenie guy said. Yes. Yes. Encouraging violence against my employees. I guess you could say we woke up to the war that is going on right now and doing whatever it takes to win. We're doing what's right. All right, Ibis. Settle down. We're only here to supervise, not boss around. Remember, those guys aren't in power. My apologies. We're just keeping a close eye on you to keep the state government happy. Just remember that. Well, because this is an optionally manned aircraft, we shall test its unmanned capabilities before putting people in it. Here, thankfully, we have just the thing. Who's this? Timmy, a UAV student. He's trained enough at Sky Masters to be trusted around new stuff.
Soaring ground, this is Master 6-2 at Masters Field, requesting permission to taxi.
Master 6-2, soaring ground. Taxi 2 and hold short of runway 28.
Taxi 2 and hold short, runway 28, Masters 6-2.
Thanks to a wide variety of cameras, soaring ground can control another runway from far away. That's strange. Well, Mareeba is not used a lot anymore anyhow, sadly.
Mareeba Tower, Masters 6-2 at runway 28, ready for takeoff.
Master 6-2, Mareeba Tower, cleared for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, Masters 6-2. Here we go.
Nice and gently.
V1. Rotate. V2. Positive climb. Gear up. Flaps up.
Okay, let's get this show on the road. We'll start by checking the aircraft. Raise your pitch and send. Good. Now lower your pitch and descend. Now let's test your turning. Looks good. Right out of the textbook, buddy. Now let's go to the testing ground to see what this baby can really do.
I'm getting an alert on engine 1.
Okay. Let's get that engine shut down.
Engine 1 is not responding, sir.
What?
Engine 2 is out as well. It's lost control. Sir, I'm losing control. I can't control it. It will recover.
Stay with it, man. You got this.
Mareeba ATC, this is Master 6-2. Pad.
Master 6-2, Mareeba, say status.
Engine failure. Power output falling. Unable to control. Mayday.
Uh-oh. Pull up!
Connection lost. Son of a... I lost it.
Engine trouble, huh?
I don't know what happened, sir.
Master 6-2, Mareeba ATC, you are lost from radar.
Hold on, I'll take it. Mareeba ATC, this is Master 6-2. Aircraft is down. Repeat, Master 6-2 is down. Sending estimated crash coordinates.
Acknowledged. Will alert emergency services.
It crashed? They're scrambling the fire and rescue assets right about now. Are we hopping on board? I'm getting on that helicopter. I need to see what happened.
Rescue control, this is 610. We have visual on the crash site. There's the fire. Another dream up in flames. At least it won't spread far. Was the pilot responsible? You told me the engines failed, but what was the cause? We will have to conduct an investigation with CASA to find out. So where did it crash? Was it an unpopulated area? Yes, thankfully it was in the test area. How do you plan to compensate for the damage? Who's going to take responsibility? We will do everything in our power. But it did have engine trouble, right? So we have an accident already before it was even in active service? What the hell is that, huh?
I don't know, but we lost millions of dollars as a result. Torres is the managing director. He will deal with the investigators.
It worked! We're away!
I can't believe that worked.
So Horacio did manage to dig up that mock-up. The plan was the C-130 dumped that model's wreckage, mixed with jet fuel and explosives, into the crash site. Might have been called arson, but it should be controlled. Alright, I'm gonna fly this bird along our pre-planned flight route.
I'm getting a coded message. Indigo, Oscar, Uniform, 2, 0.
I owe you 20, eh? That means we got away. Our little deception worked.
Yes. What now?
Now, we journey up north to our base in the New Ireland province of
P&G. There we will prepare this bird for the long flight back to Poland.
Now we finally had what we needed to launch a counterattack against the men behind the cyber warfare. But we may already be too late. The Polish banks were collapsing from within, with thousands of deleted accounts, and martial law was now in effect. The other countries were also suffering. I also found out here, at home, that misinformation campaigns have sparked cries against us. They called us delusional, out of control, deserving a horrible fate, needed to be put back into line. But I knew Horacio would be on our side, regardless of what happened. It's in moments like these that true allies reveal themselves. History will be written by the victors. If the enemy's truth will become written, ours will be lost. It's a long way back to the front line, but we'll be there in time. Our journey is not lost yet.
And just a reminder, Peter Russell Clark has a new video, 101 Things to Do with a Carrot. I thought of a 102nd, but he wasn't too receptive.
Come in, Dr. Torres. Ah, Commander Langham. A pleasure to see you again. Nice to see you too. How can I be of assistance? Leo, if you please. Man, where do you get these guys? Hire a merc? Goons are us? So, what's been happening on the Australian theatre? The front line in the Pacific is developing. I'm pretty sure the Chinese should be rolled out of the Philippines by now, but we'll see. And also, there's a new monster. It's the Bunyip from Ayers Rock. It's finally awakened again. I was not expecting that. Currently, the Australian army is in a bit of a debate on whether to kill it or just deter it. We're all holding our breath right now. I wish some would hold it just a little bit longer though. Anyway, I'm here to discuss the data that I've sent forward to you over the months. From what I've been able to gather, she's still physically stable. Only just. But mentally, she's far from it. Tell me everything. You see, the machine is providing her basic functions, including sleep. But what Aisling seems to have done is somehow override the controls. What? She's not being provided serotonin, nor is she sleeping. Nor is she relaxing, for that matter. My God. On top of that, she's had no physical contact with other people, and thus has become more isolated as a result, communicating to the world via ones and zeros. So therefore, the more she tampers with the system, the more awake and active she remains, the more she's always on the mission, the more she becomes unstable, the more machine she becomes than human. My word. You see, the CID has only been piloted for a few hours maximum. Aisling's been in one machine or another for close to a year now. Just close. But now I just wonder, would it have been for the best if she stayed in a safe position? Did we push her too far? Do not concern yourself there. It would have been nice to keep her alive as much as she could. So I need everything I can muster to bring the light back. Is there anything else you came to discuss? One of the many weird and wondrous creations in Sky Masters' other section. I'm not talking about the wild proposals in that section. Blueprints of cars, boats, spaceships, airships, aircraft carriers, Battlestar Galactica knockoffs. John was an interesting guy, I gotta say, but my recent creation was the exoskeleton. Yes, please tell me all about it. It's called the Life Enhancing Assistance Facility. The Leaf. Okay. Developed by Sky Masters and several brainiacs from James Cook University. The Leaf is a powered exoskeleton that provides basic human movement to those who cannot do it. It also carries a respirator and an oxygen system. It can be configured for all sorts of disabilities. Paraplegic, quadriplegic. Interesting. How many are ready? 3. Civilian contractors are much easier. 3. Civilian contracts are much easier to get approved and contracted. Well, if it'll give Ashling the ability to move and breathe outside the suit, I would like to place my bid for one of them. For sure. How do you want it delivered? I'll be around to collect it tomorrow. I have quite the mobility, even when I'm being targeted. But you see, history is written by the victors. And make no mistake, history will be on our side, for I intend to write it. Well, thanks very much, Joe. I'll see you around.
This was formerly an airport serving an ISAF naval base. Now though, with the fleet headquarters relocated, the main port for Papua New Guinea was changed to a ball, and this base is now empty. The airport was sold to Tarnus, and here we have a platform for our PNG operations. Our small fleet of warbirds might not seem like much, but we still have enough firepower to deter any Chinese recon units. Lieutenant, your plane is getting close to fully modified.
Very nice. I shall oversee the final preparations myself. Then we'll be ready to roll out.
I'll have 2 planes providing escort for your Ranger over the Bismarck Sea.
I wish I could join you guys, but I am needed elsewhere.
Another time, Lieutenant. Another time. There they go, off to help the PNGDF in the Pacific War again. Come nightfall, we'll head out on a long journey toward India, Egypt, and eventually the scrapyard at Solistia Gumeshti. To Romania we fly.